How do you do? Lane here. Today we're going to examine the anatomy of a Wikipedia article. Before I start editing or developing a Wikipedia article, there are certain parts of it that I think are interesting to look at to give me insight about the article and how much work I might be investing should I commit to edit it. So right now we're looking at the article on genetically modified crops. I'd like for you to consider with me the quality of this article, the quality of the information in this article, the extent to which it's been copy edited or reviewed by others, and the amount of activity that other Wikipedians are currently putting into monitoring or editing this article right now at this time when I'm considering editing it. So often the first place that I'll look in a Wikipedia article, it's I might read the introduction, the lead here, but very quickly I want to skip to the bottom and go to the references. And what I'm looking for when I check out the references is I want to see how many references are used in the article, and I want to get some idea of the quality or the nature of those references. So genetically modified crops, it's a scientific concept. It's also a social issue, and I know that there's a certain amount of activism around this. So I would expect to see a lot of references, and a lot is kind of subjective. This is a rather long article. Just scroll through it, right? Rather long article. And so there's a lot of references at the bottom, 200. So no doubt to me there's a lot of references. I would say a lot of thought has been put into this article, and it's been reviewed. It must have been reviewed by a significant number of people to have gotten to this link with so many references. Now I want to know what kind of viewpoints are being represented in this article, and I'm not going to check every reference, but something that I do want to check is are the references mostly scientific? Are they coming from mostly newspapers? Are these from magazines or books? And I'm just scanning through, and I see scientific references, and I can tell they're scientific references because there's some of these references have something called a digital object identifier listed near them, and that's a coding system, a catalog system that are used in academic papers. Like here's something from Nature, a very famous academic publication, journal science publication. I see a DOI. It stands out to me there. Looking at the names of some of these other ones, I see Environmental Protection Agency press release. I know that's science. So I'm seeing a lot of science references here, and just after looking for a few seconds, I'm predisposed to expect that this article is going to have a scientific bent to it, for better or worse. Like maybe that's appropriate, maybe not, or maybe I'm just not seeing the social references, but I've got some idea of what's going on here right now. So the next thing that I'm going to do is look at the table of contents. And I look at the table of contents much for the same reason that I look at references. I want to know what kind of mood is happening at the article. Is it more scientific? Do I see something that's that I think should be represented, but it's not represented? And that's a hard concept to explain. It's difficult to explain how a person comes about doing that. It has to do with a skill set called critical thinking. So supposing someone has a list of all the sections that ought to be inside a Wikipedia article, or all the topics that ought to be covered when someone's teaching a concept, it's very easy to start with your list and then go to a Wikipedia article and go down the list and say, is everything on my list also represented in this Wikipedia article? But oftentimes in Wikipedia, if you're thinking about developing or editing an article, you have to do critical thinking. You can't just look at a list and say, is everything on my list also in this Wikipedia article? Because often there is no list. There is no compilation, no summary topic that you can cross-check your Wikipedia article to make sure that everything's covered. You have to look at the Wikipedia article not knowing what should be in there and what shouldn't be in there, but come to your own decision about, is there something in the table of contents that, or rather, is there something not in the table of contents that I wanted to see in this article, but it's not there? So I'm just coming to this And I would expect to see a scientific overview, something about the history, something about finance or business in this space, something about social controversy, perhaps because I know it's a controversial issue. So I'm seeing different sections here. I see a history. I see types of modifications. It's got some scientific terms after it. Transgenic. I don't quite know what all these terms mean. Business impact. So something about finance or social issues. Traits. What this might be something more scientific. So types of modification. I don't really know. Traits. Maybe that's something related. Crops. I saw a yield section up here. So there's a crop section, a yield section. I wonder if those can be related. And farming practices. How are farming practices, crops, and yield different? How is the article differentiating these things? So why don't I jump into one of these sections and look and see what's happening. So I click on yield and I go to the yield section. Something that I notice about this is that it's rather short. So I'm seeing these 3 short paragraphs here, and that makes me wonder, is the concept of yield as it relates to this concept, is it sufficiently developed in the Wikipedia article? Or could it have happened that someone added these few sentences, these few paragraphs, and the Wikipedia article has not been copy edited by someone else? Might this short section be combined somewhere else, or is this really filled out? So I've just, at this point, I've got the idea that maybe it's worth considering how the sections are copy edited, how they differ. It's not entirely clear to me where the lines are drawn. I've just got some ideas to think about as I'm thinking about what I want to do if I were to develop this Wikipedia article. So I've got some idea of the quality. It's a scientific mood. It's a lot of references. I can see that there's a lot of sections here. I'm satisfied at this point that some group of people have made a decent attempt at trying to expand on this topic, genetically modified crops. So now I want to see what's going on with this article right now. The reason why I want to see that is because if there's some hot topic or there's some people discussing something, then I might want to jump in that with them and maybe have some collaborators in the end. So if people are already discussing something, I might like to work with those people. And to see if there's discussion, what discussion is happening right now in a Wikipedia article, one can click on the talk page. Remember that the talk page, it's not a place for the discussion of the subject of the article, but rather it's a place to discuss the development of the Wikipedia article on that subject. So I see there's four questions here. This topic is called oranges. Someone's saying a user just reverted my addition of a reference in response to a request for the reference. This happened in February 2015. So it's May 2015 right now. It's just a few months ago. Here's a question from April. Here's something else from April. And someone, today's May 30th, and someone just posted a note here, May 30th, where someone's seeking a request for comment on a consensus statement of safety about genetically modified food. So there's some conversation happening behind the scenes of this article right now. I might check these and I might see what other people are talking about. If they share interests with me, then I might message them and I might ask, what sources are you using to develop this article? Could we trade notes on what direction we think the article should go in? Would you collaborate with me in some way? So that's an option for me too. I can see that this article, it has some activity. Now I'm going to, I've seen the talk page, and that's the most obvious place to look for activity. Next, I'm going to go to the history page for the article. I'm going to click View History at the top here, and I'm going to see how much activity the article is getting right now. By activity, I mean edit. Whenever somebody makes a change to a Wikipedia article, they click the edit button. After they click the edit button, there's a log created of whatever change that they've made. And what I'm going to be doing at this point is look to see how often does somebody edit this Wikipedia article, just get some idea about how often it's being edited right now, and how extensive are the changes being proposed to the Wikipedia article when it is edited. So we're in May 2015, and I can see that the Wikipedia article has been edited 7, 8 times this month. And I look at April, and what am I seeing here? So who knows? About 20 times it was edited in April, and then in March, again, maybe 15 times or so. So it's a fair amount of activity. I think that it's safe to assume that there's a group of people watching this article, and if I were to edit it, it's likely that someone would review my edit pretty quickly, because there's edits happening, if you see edits happening, then you can presume that there's even more people watching the article that would comment on it if something were controversial or someone did something strange. So just as an example of someone watching the article, I can see here, April 10th, 2015, someone deleted a lot of content. I know that they deleted the content because it says minus 140, let's see, 1,447 characters. So this number here is the number of characters added or removed. If it's red, they were removed. If it's green, they were added. So at this time, so we've got a timestamp here, 1600 hours. And then 2 minutes later, someone came back and reverted what they did because somebody removed the content and they didn't say why they were deleting content. So I'm seeing JYT Dog, this person, RJ WILMSI, that's a Wikipedia editor. Here's someone who doesn't have a Wikipedia account, they're editing. Here's a different name, there's that JYT Dog person again. More people who are numbers, that means that they don't have a Wikipedia account, they're editing without being logged in. Eduardo, David, LF Stevens. So I'm seeing about 10 people here. So there's some diversity in the number of contributors to this Wikipedia article. To me, that's a good thing, because when I add something to Wikipedia, it's encouraging to me to get feedback from others and to know that someone is quickly going to review what it is that I'm doing. It makes me feel more confident in my work to get feedback continually as I add things. I'm going to look at a couple of other things here. One, I'm going to look at the popularity, and the second thing I'm going to look at is the overall history of who has been editing the article and how much have they done. So this is what I'm looking at right now is a running log of what the most recent history is. If I were to click on revision history statistics here, then I get to go to this page, which there's a lot of data here. Some of it's a bit confusing. It's a bit of a junky page, but I can get some insight on what's happening with this Wikipedia article. Particularly, something that really interests me. I'm going to scroll down and look at these pie charts. So I think on this screencast, this pie chart on the left is partially cut off. Excuse me, I don't know how to. How about that? Let's see. I think I've included it. So the chart on the left is what editors have clicked the edit button at the top of the Wikipedia article and made a change of any kind, no matter the length. So they could have added many paragraphs and done a lot of development or completely moved the article around, or they could have just added a period somewhere. So this is just a count of how many changes anyone's made to the article. So I see that the major contributor to this article in terms of number of edits is this user JYT Dog, and they've made about 30% of the edits in this article. So I can see that this user has a disproportionate influence on the direction of the article as compared to other users. So I might be predisposed to think that this article is reflecting this person's opinion more than it would be the opinions of the general public. It's ideal for me to see a Wikipedia article that has a diversity of contributions. The more big pieces of pie that I see in here, the happier I am. And also it makes me very happy to see that there's this half the pie is done by people who have contributed less than 1% to the article. So from the Wikipedia perspective, things often turn out better when you have large numbers of people who are giving their opinion and reviewing things. You want to see a high edit count overall in the article, and then you want to see diversity of perspectives as the article gets developed. So now I'm going to look at this right pie chart. Not only did JYT Dog, not only was he the contributor who made the most number of edits, but this pie shows how many characters any given person has contributed to the Wikipedia article. By characters, I mean the letters. You can think of this as who's contributed the highest word count or contributed the most content to the article. 75% of the article was written by this one person, JYT Dog. So he's watching the article. He's contributing a huge amount of content, and I would say that it's very likely that this Wikipedia article, it's representing his perspective over all others. So I've got some insight that if I edit this article, it's very likely that that person, he's acting as steward of it. He's not a gatekeeper. He doesn't control it. This isn't his article. But he's somebody who, for whatever reason, he's taken it upon himself to add a lot of content to this article. So I've got that insight. I know that other people contribute, and I've got some idea of who might be contributing to this Wikipedia article. I'm going to go back to the article now. Oop, oop, oop. Something that I'm not going to talk about in this session, but I'll talk about in a different session, is when I'm considering an article, I also think about what related articles might have already covered the information that I want to share on this topic. So in this case, we have at the top of this article a notice that I'm at the article for genetically modified crops, but it says for related content, see genetic engineering, genetically modified organism, genetically modified food controversies. So if I were to add information to this article that might have some synergy with the information in those other articles. So even if I choose to edit one Wikipedia article, it can be worthwhile for me to check all the articles within a family that's related to that concept, see what information they're covering, and see if the information that I want to add might already be written in one of those articles. When I looked at the table of contents earlier, and this is why it's relevant to look at the other articles. When I looked at the table of contents earlier, I picked out this one section, yield, and said that perhaps this section isn't well developed. It seems short. Could this be combined with another one? Should it be expanded? How much copy editing has gone into this article? If you'll remember, a Wikipedia article, anyone can edit a Wikipedia article, and the building block of Wikipedia articles is when someone adds a sentence, and then they follow that sentence with a citation. So it can happen that large numbers of people can come into a Wikipedia article, each of them add a sentence, and each of them follow that sentence with a citation. But in the end of it all, I can't really be certain, unless I have supporting evidence proof, that someone has come after all this crowd has added their perspectives and copy edited the entire thing. So in the end, there's groups of Wikipedians who do this. When an article reaches a certain level of quality, there's enough content, someone does copy editing. And copy editing becomes even more complicated when you have families of articles, like this family of articles around genetic engineering. So as I'm considering editing this article, I consider, is it time to do some copy editing? Should I read all of these articles, focus on one particular area of it, consider them as a whole? I might want to just focus on one area, read all the articles, and see what can be combined. Should articles point at each other? Instead of talking about the yield in this article, should I point to another article and just say, for more information, go read there? So have to consider that too, because I don't want to replicate work that somebody has already done. I think that's enough for today. There's actually more that it could be said about a Wikipedia article. If you'll notice, there's so many things to click, so many things, too many things, right? And then it doesn't stop. So next time we'll talk about the links between Wikipedia articles. Thank you for joining me out today. Talk soon.